I'm a graduate of the old Albuquerque High School at Broadway and Central. Are there any Bulldogs in here? Yes! There you go! I love that school, and I'm so glad that it has been preserved. I went to the University of New Mexico, where I met my husband, who's from Santa Fe. He's a career naval officer, and so we spent about 23 years running around the world with John serving in the Navy. Now, I'm looking at their majority of women here, so you know what that did to my career. Every place we moved, I had to either start again or I had to dance really fast. And sometimes I did both. We got to come back home in 1994, where John was the logistics director for Defense Nuclear Agency. Are any of you part of those agencies? Not. Oh yes, okay. So you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so we are back in New Mexico. I have been a soccer coach for almost 20 years. I know it's hard to believe that, but I was the chief coach for AYSO here in Albuquerque. One of the fallouts of being a Navy family is no matter where you go, for your children, you're never there at the right time. And so I got into coaching soccer because my son was 5, and I had a little baby in arms, and the folks there said, well, gee, we'd really like your son to play, but you're a little late. But if you can coach, you can play. And that is the story of my life. And so I have coached all of these years. I have been in the middle of all of this traveling. I started a couple of businesses. One was an audio and video production company in San Diego that operated for 20 years. And I have an intimate knowledge and working relationship, not only with some very creative things, but the impact of taxes. We can talk about taxes in a little bit. When I got back here and it was time to make sure that my child could go to the school that he go to, I became a DOE employee. And for 12 years, I have been a Sandia contractor serving Sandia National Labs in the critical infrastructure systems. And I'm very, very pleased to have done that. But along the way, I got elected to the New Mexico State Legislature. I served 8 years in this legislature. If you heard about the webcams, I'm guilty. I did it. I took them in. I don't know what happened. That's okay. I'll get it. And so I bring to this position a very diverse background because we have many issues that must be dealt with. So now let me start with Duffy. Am I familiar with you? Yes, from coast to coast. And the one thing that we've not talked about this morning is we've talked about your benefits. We haven't talked about what you do. My experience of having watched not only from the military side, from the DOE side, and also from the state government side. Who is our government? Who actually makes the programs work? It's not me. I'm a policymaker. And it's usually not the head of your department or the political appointee. It's you. How many of you have had to deal with a political appointee who, quite frankly, had no idea what they were doing? Oh, anybody back here? You know what I'm talking about? Yes. And you still chose to do what was right. And you did that. Sometimes you had to close the door and you just had to be quiet, but you knew what was right. I am so grateful that you were there. So here's one question. I read all of your material, and the one piece that I would like to hear you advocate a little bit more for. Yes, at the top, it's a political system. But why is it that political appointees do not have to have any management experience, any management know-how, any idea of how to treat employees? Did any of you ever ask those questions as you were serving? Yeah, I see it, and one of the things that I saw at the state level was, holy moly, if anybody in my employ as a manager behaved like these political appointee managers behaved, I'd be in jail. I would be in jail. And so what is wrong that we have not been able to move part of our political culture just a little bit? Because there's, I know, you all know who your 10% are. Every industry has the 10% slackers. We all know that. The rest of us are out there doing the right thing. So why can't we get this one burr under the saddle of public employees dealt with? And I hope that you'll consider it because I think it's worth it. So, do I understand what you're working on and the issues with regard to benefits? Absolutely. You know, and I look at my mom. My mom is 86. And we have the same discussion about what happens when there is no COLA. What happens? How do you make ends meet? But there are other questions, and so let me go right into the next question. The next question, did you all get to see these questions? Are they on your table? Okay, let me read them to you. The next question is how do you feel about the state of the economy and jobs? If elected, what actions would you take to improve the situation? Ladies and gentlemen, we're in trouble. It's terrible. As a small business owner, it is not good out there. But let me be real specific about what has happened with our Congress. They have not passed a budget in 3.5 years. I am a federal DOE contractor with contracts. Do you know what happens to my employees when I have to say, we have a contract, but it's not funded? Do you know what that means? That means, first off, I say, gosh, you get to go off of all of your benefits. And then I get to say, gosh, now you have to go to project status. And then I go to, well, we'll call you when we have work. This is happening today, right now, in Albuquerque. And you might be saying, well, why don't they just file for unemployment? Because clearances are in the balance. And we don't. Because we all know there is a job to do. And to the very last minute, I know people in Albuquerque who are living on their IRAs, their 401ks, because their expertise is valuable and they know it. But we're almost at wit's end. And that is simply because Congress has not passed a budget in 3.5 years. Now, is there more stuff that's really awful? The regulatory environment is absolutely dreadful. Absolutely dreadful right this minute. How is it at a state or at a federal level that we could create regulations or laws that put small businesses in conflict? And when I say that, I mean, how can you comply with one law and be in violation of another law? That is how off track we are. So are there things that we can do immediately to improve our economy? Well, first and foremost, pass a cotton-picking budget. And while we're at it, you know what? The state of New Mexico balances its budget. I have been there. I know it's possible. And you know what? It takes work. We can do this. Let's have a budget. In the state of New Mexico, there are other things that we can do in this economy today. Part of it is backing off on regulation. Now, I am going to be the first person to tell you that I am not at all interested in allowing our waters to be polluted. That's just stupid. But I am interested in reducing the paperwork on businesses. Can you, how many of you have done independent contracting other than Michelle? Because I know she knows this problem. Every time when you're working with government that you have to put in your certs and reps, it is a pile of paper about this big for every single contract.
Absolutely.
Do you think, can't we get a little smarter here? You know, we have the technology to actually enable us to be efficient, but we choose not to. So there are a lot of little steps that will actually make us more productive much more quickly. We choose to do it. I choose to do it because when we have people working, when we have small businesses providing services, we all flourish. And let me just go right back to the Department of Energy and Kirtland Air Force Base. When you have people who are not getting that paycheck, there is a ripple effect. It ripples right down to my dry cleaner, to my favorite restaurants, to my grocery store that is no longer in my area. So it's really important that we do those things that actually allow us to have an economy. The next question was about the Affordable Care Act. And let me just, the question was, would you support the recently passed Affordable Care Act? Why or why not? Now, I am on record for not supporting it. And I want you to hear out why, because it isn't quite what you think. There were things in the Affordable Care Act that many of us have fought very hard for. One was allowing my children to be on my insurance policy till they're 26. I'm delighted. Pre-existing conditions. How long were we going to have this argument? That was just wrong. And there are a couple of other things that I thought was absolutely terrific in this particular piece of legislation. I like to be a policymaker. I believe in the process. But I found the structure of this particular piece of legislation to be so flawed that we would be better off starting again. And one of the greatest problems I have with this piece of legislation is we keep talking about insurance. I want to talk about health care. And what I found in this particular piece of legislation was cementing the middleman between you and your health care. And I think we have to deal with it head on. And you know what? Insurance. Insurance companies. It's insurance. Insurance doesn't provide that cannula for you. It does not. Insurance doesn't hold your hand when you need it. I'm sorry, it doesn't. That's what the bill is talking about. And I fundamentally believe that we have got to talk about root issues. And so this bill, by the way, I actually read it before it was passed, 2,300 pages. It is a painful read. Have any of you looked at it? Okay, so here's another standard. I believe we should write legislation that, yes, I know you read it. And I would say it wasn't fun, but you know, when you send your policymakers to Congress, we should not be hiding things from you. And the standard for good legislation is you should be able to read it, and with a plain reading, understand it. And I have to tell you what, I have to have a map to read Itaka. And that is a problem. And so I will continue this fight throughout my service because I think you need to know what we're talking about. And one of the things I don't like about the bill, the surprise number of taxes. Now, do any of you own a business in here? Michelle, are you a sole proprietorship or an LLC?
I'm an S corp.
You're an S corp. I think you're okay. Because and the reason I say this is the surprises in this bill. There are 29 grand new taxes in the bill, but the highest increase on your adjusted gross income is levied on the sole proprietor. Now, I have a problem from a tax policy side because those people, the sole proprietors, the people who start businesses, they're the innovators. I don't want to drive the innovators away. I don't. So that's one of the problems. So, do I think they're good things? Yes. Structurally, I really had a problem with this piece of legislation. And as a member of Congress, I will always fight for clearer issues, single issues, things that you can read that you will clearly understand what it is that we are doing. I think you deserve no less. Social Security. And I think Michelle has covered a lot of this, so let me just sum up and say, it's your money. It is your money. Are there things that we can do? And the question is what is your opinion of how to fix Social Security and to make sure it exists for future generations? All right, I'm a root cause person. So who remembers when we took the interest off of the Social Security Trust Fund and put it in the general fund?
I worked for the Social Security Administration. I remember that happening.
1967. President Johnson. And the reason that happened was, quite frankly, to pay for the Vietnam War. The problem was, it was never put back, among other things. You know, I believe that when you have a benefit plan, it is never right for your elected representatives to divert the funds that belong to your benefit plan. And we're going to have that discussion here in the state. It was on the front page of the paper, PERA, ERB, the New Mexico Retiree Health Care Program. There are funds that belong to you. And while we always hope that you're going to make good investments, sometimes they make good investments, sometimes not so much, but the interest on that fund belongs to you. And until we get that right, everything is at risk. And I believe that it should be available. That's the step I'm going to take. Let's talk about Medicare. Michelle did a really good job.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Janice and I work together and have very
high respect and regard. Right. And she did a good job of educating. So I'm going to save those for questions because she did get one of the things I want to talk about, and that's education. Now, I have a burr under my saddle. I am a graduate of the old Albuquerque High School. I have gone toe-to-toe with people clear across the world that have had Ivy League types of education. And you know what? I did great. I was well prepared. And now I come back home with my children, and we're 49th in the nation. Are you kidding me? We have more PhDs per capita than any other state in the union, and our kids are 49th in the nation. There are some real systemic problems here. And I have to just pose the question to you. Are we really talking about education here? Because education is the pursuit of knowledge, and you want to make sure your kids have access to knowledge. Are we withholding knowledge? I think we are. So I'm going to propose something rather dramatic, because at the federal level, there are only certain things we can do. So I believe that our state could spend the money as well, or just as badly, as we can at the federal level. I believe that the paperwork, for example, for Title I, is absolutely outrageous. Do we have any teachers in here? Did I put that succinctly enough? And I want, if you were teaching, I don't want you doing paperwork, I want you teaching. If you were dealing with Title I children, I want you teaching, not doing paperwork. And so when our systems have changed to the extent that we're doing paperwork and it's not value added, it's time to step back and say, now wait a minute. But in this state, I know we have smart children. I know that because we have smart parents. We have smart families. And there is something systemically wrong, and I will continue to press for the pursuit of knowledge, because our kids deserve no less than that. And the deficit. Does anybody have any inkling about how I feel about the deficit? I just thought we cannot, I'm going to go back to a balanced budget. The state of New Mexico, in its constitution, says we will have a balanced budget. And we really do that. There are about 33 other states that do that. There are some states who say that and then they don't do that. We're not one of them. And I don't want us to. The point over here was the federal government should be the same. 33 states have a balanced budget requirement. And there's another little thing that 33 other states do. We have a single issue legislation requirement. Our state, that means that when you put in a bill, you can't just throw in the kitchen sink. It's got to be clear. 33 states actually have that. So why not the federal government? I think it is time. I think it is time. But let's be real. We are now at almost $16 trillion of debt. Our deficit for this year will be $1.2 trillion. I can't even get my head around this. But at the end of the day, we all know what the answer is. There is nobody who is going to give a winning lotto ticket to our nation. Nobody's going to do that. And when I look at national security, yeah, I'm a DOE kind of military person. The greatest threat to our national security is this debt. Now, we have worked a long time to get to this debt. It's going to take us a while to get out of it. But there are a number of things that we should be doing. And one, your members of Congress should be setting aside money every year to start reducing the debt. And how about this for a thought? We have all kinds of volunteer ways where if you wanted to pay off the debt, you could, or if you wanted to donate to something, you could do that. How come you can't donate to pay off the debt? How come? Do you think we don't have discretionary income? And to look at your faces, I already know, looking at your face, do you love this country? Do you want to make sure that your kids have a place to live and grow up, to make mistakes, and to choose what they want? This debt is in the way of that. And so I can see in everybody's face, you all know this is not going to be easy. It is not going to be easy. And so here's what I'm going to do when I get to Congress. I will tell you the truth. I will tell you quickly, because some of it is not going to be fun. It will hurt. and we will move forward and make a commitment to reducing that debt. And in 5 years, boy, I sure would like to see that debt reduced by a quarter. That's a very aggressive plan. It's going to be tough, but we're all going to have to do it. So I'm going to stop there because I think that there was time for question and answers. Good. It has been just a pleasure talking with you. I would love to earn your vote, and I will hang around and answer any questions, but I think there are question and answers now. Excellent. Thank you all so